Good evening. My name is Kendra Phillips, and I am the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement for the Hill Learning Center in Durham, North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. For those not familiar with Hill, we are a K-12 education nonprofit that exists because mainstream instructional practices too often do not serve all students, including those with both diagnosed and undiagnosed learning differences. Our ambitious vision is that all students with learning and attention challenges receive the instruction and support they need, regardless of where they attend school. We pursue this vision through a range of programs that reach students and educators here in Durham and beyond. If you haven't already, I encourage you to visit our website and explore the available resources at hillcenter.org. Through the Community Education Series, we offer free, yes, I said free, practical research-based strategies to help students as well as the parents, teachers, and professionals who support them. This series is made possible through the generosity of our supporters, including our 2023-24 presenting sponsor, the Forest at Duke. The Forest at Duke is a vibrant, not-for-profit, continuing care retirement community in Durham, North Carolina. Thank you to the Forest at Duke, and thank you all for being here. Before introducing our speaker tonight, I'd like to cover a few details. This event is being recorded and will be distributed tomorrow along with a copy of the slides and a short survey. Please complete the survey. Your feedback is very important to us in developing future sessions. All participants are muted, but you can submit questions to the presenter and the Hill team, anytime using the chat. We will use these questions for the Q&A with Geraldine at the end, so please send them in the chat as you have them. Geraldine will present for almost an hour, and then we will have Q&A. Thanks in advance for submitting those questions in the chat. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome Geraldine Pesacreta. Geraldine has been a member of Hill's Learning Center Middle School faculty for 24 years. In addition, she serves as the Executive Function Coordinator for student programs. In this role, she conducts executive function workshops, presents EF skills at national and international conferences, and mentors our coaches who serve students with executive function needs. Geraldine brings over 40 years of experience of teaching and developing curricular materials. So now I'll turn it over to Geraldine.
Thank you, Kendra. I appreciate that. And thank you for the warm welcome. I appreciate everyone coming, and I especially appreciate any students who are with us. And please, students, I welcome you to ask the questions also. And there's going to be a few slides where you can interact, and I invite you to do so. So kudos for coming to the students, and thank you, parents, counselors, or any other support people. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and get started. The year just started. We're just a few weeks in, and we want to be on the right foot, because the sooner we get ourselves established, the less likely we are to dig ourselves into a hole. So let's get started into it. The most crucial part of any success is having the attitude of success. And when I talk with my students all the time, they need to know why they're doing this. Why is it important that I study? What is it that I want to achieve? And there's a quote that I use frequently that is ideal for this, especially for students. Discipline is the ability to make yourself do something you don't want to do in order to get a result you really want to get. And for each student, it is so crucially important. Students, why are you here? What is it that you want to achieve? You may not want to write that paper, but indeed, you're going to achieve something by doing that. I always give the example with the students. I absolutely love to cook. I don't particularly care to do the cleanup, but what would happen if I didn't? Why do I take the discipline to clean up? And one response from a student was, otherwise the health department would come and my house would be full of rodents and cockroaches. That is the result that I want, is a clean house. Therefore, I will establish the discipline of doing the dishes. But that's no different than students completing assignments that they're not particularly fond of doing and therefore keep putting off. So what I do ask is, for students, for parents, for anyone in your perspective, why do you want your child to succeed, or students, why do you want to succeed in school? What is your goal? And I'm not necessarily looking for grades. You can put your responses in the chat and we will share a sampling of them. It could be as simple as, you want to make sure that you're ready for middle school if you're in lower school. You want to make sure that you pass all of your tests. You want to make sure that you learn how to use flashcards. What is it that you really want to achieve? It might be a certain college you're interested in getting into. What is it that you are interested in achieving? And Kathy, as there are some responses, if you would be so kind to share some of those, so people get to see the plethora of different results that students are interested in achieving.
Absolutely. I'm keeping my eye on the chat. Let's see why we want to succeed. What are we trying to achieve? Yeah, good. Avoid end of semester catch up crunch.
Perfect.
Great idea. Nice. To give my child more options in the path he wants to pursue in life. Avoid frustration.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. Build self-confidence. Have my child have a skill set that will allow them to choose a path that is meaningful for them. That's great.
I love these goals.
I know.
And I love that they're not like straight A's. I want straight A's, because it's our goals are bigger than that.
Yep. Yep, they are. Help my daughter prepare for high school next year and also build some independent skills, right?
Excellent.
Part
We'll
of the
take
goal of
one or
build.
two. We'll take one or two more and then move on to how do we get there?
How about staying on the sports team? That's a good one.
Yes.
Catching up with my friends. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I love these goals. There's students know why you're interested in succeeding, and that reason isn't necessarily a specific grade, but a specific reason. And then you can learn to implement the discipline. Parents, if you are speaking with your student, ask them why they want to go ahead and succeed. What is it that they want in life, even if it's 5 years from now? Because then when they come up with a difficult assignment, you can remind them they're not actually completing that assignment just to finish that particular paper, but to prepare to be ready for high school, catch up with their friends, be on that sports team, whatever that goal is, what they really want. And so let's find out some of those skills and strategies that will help lead to that success. And we want to start off the school using the school year, using the strategies to improve executive functioning study skills to meet your goals. We're first going to talk about preparing a productive workspace. And I know the students in my class hear this almost daily, and each one of them will admit that it's productive, but still have difficulty with the discipline of maintaining that workspace. So let's look for some tricks. We want to have a space ready to do your work within 2 minutes of sitting down. If you are doing your work within 2 minutes of sitting down, you have a productive workspace. You want everything within arm's reach, and you want to have a way to store the materials that are for another activity. So if your desk is also a place where you do Legos or models or do crafts, you want a place to store that away. And I have a trick for you for that as well. You don't want that desk full of school stuff and leisure activity materials. You want to reorganize the workspace once a week to make sure everything is in its place. So welcome to my workspace during the pandemic, and this has been staged. This is not what my space looked like, but it was staged. And for everybody, I'd like to see, we're going to see how quickly we can find some of these things. The Fahrenheit 451 book, can you find it quickly? The flashcard list, a Wordly Wise workbook. Can you find it right now? We want to be able to start work right away. An infinitive sentence worksheet. And the reason for, I'm going to talk about the reason that I said infinitive sentence worksheet in a minute. Sticky notes in order to annotate because you're working with a novel. Where are they? Do you know where they are right now? The Hill Planner for the homework assignments and the iPad. And if we actually find these, this is where they are. And one of the things you'll notice is here's the infinitive worksheet. Well, if I'm not even exactly sure, because I can't remember what an infinitive sentence worksheet would look like or what an infinitive is, if I don't have it in an organized place to say, this is my English homework, then I'm not even sure what I'm looking for. And so it helps you find it, but it also helps you identify what you are finding. And I love the idea that we're not really sure where the iPad is, and it might be in another room without a charge, which is really possible. One of the things that we discovered in an article through Educatopia is the amount of time on average students waste by looking for the materials they need, the supplies they need to do a homework assignment. In the chat, especially students, how much time per night do you think the average student takes to find all of their materials? And put your prediction in the chat, and then I will, in a few seconds, I will go ahead and share what it is.
15, 20, 15, 8, 10, 15, 20. They're right on it. 30, 25, 20 to 30 minutes, 30.
Actually, you guys are doing quite well. Not as low as 5 or 10.
The Bergman girls, 5 to 8 minutes. So they're optimistic.
Yes. The average time for the average student to get all their materials ready is 22 minutes. So that means that in a 4-day homework week, that's 88 minutes of time just looking for materials. That's over an hour. And so let's go ahead and use that hour for something fun. Let's get this cleaned up. Let's have our homework space look organized. And so we can save that 22 minutes per night. And this is the exact same space. You don't need a lot of space. You just need it organized. It is beneficial to have a lamp that is directed right on the material that you're working at. Where the light is where your eye focus is, and you're able to pay closer attention and keep a better focus on that material. Sticky notes and index cards. I have a little box container where they always get put ready to go, ready for me to study. pencils, pens, dry erase, styluses, anything I need, stapler, hole puncher, anything, any materials that I need, and always having your book bag right there. The number of times the student will tell me, I didn't have my homework sheet, but my book bag was downstairs. Always have your book bag with you at the time that you're doing your homework, wherever that homework happens to be. So let's look at strategies for supplies to be prepared. I mentioned earlier that you want a place in order to put non-academic activity materials. And this is a great way of doing it, getting stackable trays. You might put your craft materials in one tray, your Lego materials in a tray, your model, your gaming materials. If somebody else uses the same desk, a tray for that person. But always have it that other materials for other activities have a home also, which takes away from the clutter from your academic workspace, so that the only thing that is available on that table or on that desk is the material you need to do your homework. I do want to make a real quick comment about snacks. Believe it or not, I do encourage them. It does help with motor movement, and it just gives a very small break. I do recommend highly, because I've seen the results of a closable container, that it is closed because it will spill and therefore it will not ruin any of your work. Bite-size snacks. These little pretzel nuggets are ideal because you just put the whole nugget in. There's no crumbs anywhere else. Please, please, please avoid greasy orange snacks because it gets on your fingers and then it gets on the papers. And I do not accept greasy orange homework sheets. We do also recommend chewing gum if that's permitted by the orthodontist or at home, in order to help with that motor movement. It helps get rid of the fidgets a little bit. Also highly recommend that there always be an extra charger available at that workstation. For our students, we often recommend that there be one in their book bag and one in their workstation if that's available, because many students are working off of low battery appliances. Using a nightly planner system. If you'll notice, it doesn't have to be an actual planner. We're going to talk about it, but some kind of a system that helps students plan and have it that they can know what their nightly tasks are, their long-term project tasks are, and identify obligations for family and extracurricular activities. Students will often say, well, I've got a track meet, and the track meet is from 3 to 4:30, so I'll start homework at 4:30. Well, it is an away meet, and they're not even going to get home until 5:30. So having the student go through and look at all those kinds of parameters. Also, parents, if you can communicate with your students other family obligations that we fully support all of your family participating in. There was one instance where they broke apart their writing assignment. They were right on task. They were on schedule. And on Thursday, they were going to do their final edits, and it was their sister's dance recital that either he did not know that about it or did not know the expectation that he attend. We support the family activities, but just make sure that that gets on the student's calendar. So let's look at some of these more specifically. Developmentally, looking at lower school kids, this is if there's any teachers This is a one sheet, a to-do list, getting the kids used to what to-do lists are. Either the teacher for very young students could have this written in what the assignments are, or third graders, fourth graders could write it in. And there's another way of helping students with their homework assignments is giving them an opportunity. And these are emojis that could either be pre-stamped on there, or you could teach the kids to write on it, write it in there. I did well and I understood what it is. I might circle it. I did my best. I'm not sure how well I did, but I think I did okay. Or I really was confused and I'm not real sure, I might need help. And they learn to check it off. And this is what it might look like when a student is finished: a list of the assignments, a check off they get used to in very young grades in order to do it. Then making sure there is an opportunity for them to reflect on it. If students are using a regular planner, sometimes the schools do issue planners. One of the conflicts that I have is with all these extra pieces of information, those boxes get awfully small. A modification that you can use, and I have two here, is if you're allowed to, you can just come up with a Monday through Friday, one sheet per week. But this allows bigger squares for a student to write down what it is. And it's just one sheet that's in the front. They don't have to keep flipping over and trying to find the week that they're on. Just have one sheet at a time, a week in there. If you are using a planner, use a clip so that when they open it up, it opens directly to the week that you are in, instead of the students flipping through. And I know it works with some students. They simply open up the book, find a Monday and write it down, whether it's the correct one or not. Another strategy, because a lot of students, their assignments are online and they don't use a planner per se, is prior to starting the actual homework assignment. And my students, and I've timed it, have gotten down to 3 minutes. It does take a little bit of time, and I'm working with 7th and 8th graders, is they go through each one of the sites on the class, write down exactly what they're expected to do. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back here. You could just do this on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. It's not fancy. Cut it in half, come up with about 20 sheets, put it at the work site, and make your own tablet of what are you actually going to do that night. And I have a sample of very specific assignments. I'm going to complete questions 1 and 2 on the lab. I'm going to read chapter 1 and 2. And so when looking at this, making sure that it's very clear and specific what they need to do, what kinds of work are they going to do on a project, looking at upcoming tests and extracurricular or family obligations. They go ahead, they check it off. When they're done, they rip it off, ball it up, throw it in the trash can, and they are done for that night. And then we have a clean sheet for the next day. This is one that is done at home, at the work desk space area. And especially this is beneficial for when everything is written on the Google or Canvas or whatever the platform is. This is one that a lot of high schoolers are starting to use because they don't have time at the end of a period in order to get out a planner, find the right day, write it down. Class is gone, the class is empty, everyone's gone, and they're going to be late for class. So what they do is, if Phones are permitted. This is the Notes app. And in the Notes app, they have the table feature to create a table of each one of the classes. And you can go in, click on the right-hand part of the column, and quickly dictate as you walk out of the room exactly what you're going to do. High school students and a lot of my 8th graders are starting to use this. Been very beneficial. As soon as an assignment is completed, they delete the assignment, but leave the list of classes, and it's ready to be filled in for the next day. And if you'll notice here, this is very important. If there is no homework, don't leave it blank, because what you don't know is, did I forget to record it, or do I not have any? But this word none makes it very clear that I don't have homework in that class tonight. So I can just move on to the next one. There is an app called Todoist, especially for the juniors and seniors, those ready to kind of prepare to go to college. It's pretty straightforward. It is connected to the phone, which will give reminders, and it can help you schedule time to do the assignment. And there are videos, YouTube videos about how to use that particular app. Those that I just gave you are for the due today and assigned today, due tomorrow, or the small things. It really is for what I'm actually going to work on in my homework tonight. But we also want to tackle the monthly and the long-term planners, and have one at a point of performance. And what I mean by that is visually in front of the student at the student's workspace. So if they have a desk against a wall, on the wall, because if you have to look it up, you're not going to find it and look for it. Document clear and specific tasks, just like before, and to identify small portions. You're going to chunk those long-term assignment projects. And I have an example here for you. So this is a wall calendar, and this is a dry erase wall calendar that I've had a couple of students use. So if today is October 5th, and that's the night I'm working on, I've written my to-do list, and I will do all this and erase it as I go. I notice that my history test is coming up, so I'm writing down here that I'm going to contact my study buddy and test. You're going to quiz each other on the phone or texting or however. And I've done some podcasts, so I'm going to listen to my podcast about some of the historic events that might be on the test. These are the two things I'm going to work on in my history tonight, because I know that test is coming up. A vocabulary quiz is in my future, so I'm going to, for English, put vocabulary words into Quizlet that night. And I also have to write my thesis statement for an essay that is due. I'm chunking it up. But they're the only two things I have to do for English. Students avoid starting because they don't know what small part of it they can work on. And I'm going to show you how to even break that apart. So looking at breaking down a long-term assignment, this is just a calendar that was downloaded, a generic calendar, and I could put in my own days of the days of the month, put that in there. This is a calendar that one of my students actually completed for a research paper. Essentially, what I require with the students, if there's a long-term project, the first assignment is to schedule it out on a calendar, and that schedule is due the next day. So task number 1, schedule out your plan. And so when they say that all I need to do is write 5 note cards, I can do that. What I'm so overwhelmed with is I have to write a whole research paper, but I can handle writing 5 research cards. And so writing that all out. If each one of these written comments represents 20 minutes worth of work with days off and protected practice days, game days, that equals 5 hours. 20 minutes of work for that many days, it's 5 hours. You can have a quality paper in 5 hours worth of work over time. But can you do it if you work on it 2.5 hours a night, 2 nights before? And then the answer is no, because you need too many brain breaks and you have other work that you need to do as well. And there is the quality just is not there. You might have enough words on the paper, but you sure are not going to achieve the goal that you're looking for. Another way of looking at projects, because one of the issues when I've worked with a number of students is I don't have time every night to do all the homework that's been assigned, plus part of a long-term project, plus study for a test over a multiple nights. That is actually a pretty accurate assessment, especially those that are in theater or in sports or have a part-time job or anything like that. We refer to the paint a room style for smaller projects. Now, this isn't a long 8-page research paper, but for a project that might take 3 or 4 hours to complete, is decide on a day or two that you're going to do only this, create a positive atmosphere, order pizza to come at noon for your break, have friends over at the end. But essentially, this is no different than if you're going to paint a room, you wouldn't paint it for 20 minutes a night. Clean the brush every night. Put the paint away every night. Restir it the next day. Restart painting the next day. Taping over and over, you wouldn't do that. But so kind of looking at saying, we're going to just make it as pleasant as possible. We're going to put parameters around it, have music playing if that's reasonable with what you're working on. Tell someone what your plan is, and then schedule it out. Break it down into these parts and schedule out exactly when you plan to have it done. We do recommend that there be a day between when you do the work and when you review the work, so that you can actually have a valuable review. But this works actually quite well for very, very busy students who want to get it done well, but really honestly are just rushing through in evenings. Create a daily schedule, kind of protect well, and I'm putting this first on purpose, protect your free time. Know that you want to be done by 8 o'clock because you want to go gaming with a friend online. You want to watch a certain show. You want to talk with somebody. You want to shop for the shoes for a dance or whatever it is that you want to do. Protect that. Know when your free time is, because you want your discipline is to get done what you want to do what you really want to do. And that is sometimes well-earned free time. Document extracurricular activities, including travel time. Document family, we've already talked about that. Recognize all available time to complete homework and study. There are so many 15 and 20-minute chunks of time in a school day that some work can be done, especially for students. So looking at this, I'm going to come home, have a snack, and have some free time because I literally just got off the bus and I've been in school all day, do homework for an hour, dinner, clean up the dishes, kind of move around a little bit, then go back and do homework for 45 minutes and be done for your free time. And I've added here nightly routine. That means, kiddos, putting everything back in your book bag, putting your book bag by the door, making sure that your computer is plugged in so it's charged the next day. If you need to make a lunch, get your lunch and have it ready in the refrigerator. And I do have a recommendation for your order of assignments. If the student has difficulty with initiation, getting started, once they get started, they're okay, but they just can't get started, begin with the easiest assignment, because that'll get you into doing the work, and then you'll be fine. If you're a student who has difficulty with perseverance, you can get started, but boy, after 20 minutes, you're starting to get depleted. And we're going to talk about the Pomodoro method in a moment, but you just have trouble sustaining that attention. Begin with the hardest, most difficult assignment first. So if you have difficulty starting, start with the easiest. If you have difficulty sustaining attention, begin with the most difficult assignment. When looking at study hall, and I know a number of students that have gotten stuck with this, ideally a last period study hall would be perfect for students who need the time to be able to start their homework. However, not everyone gets a last period study hall. So if you happen to get a first or second period study hall, complete homework that's due the next day in that study hall, because this is the reason. I've had students that would say, I have study hall second period tomorrow. I'll do your homework second period tomorrow. They get in there, they're not exactly sure what to do. They need to ask questions. I'm not available to answer anything with email. It's an assignment that they scheduled maybe 2 assignments and it took longer than they expected. And then they're rushing through and not doing a good job. First period study hall is really difficult. This is what I would use just for those studying those flashcards, listening to podcasts, looking at videos. And there's a whole series of activities you could do to process information and get ready for a test. But really avoid doing Tuesday's homework on Wednesday second period. Too many kids have gotten stuck with that. Consider utilizing after-school study sessions, study halls at school. Stay there just to get it done so that when you get home, you are done. Sometimes there's extended lunch periods or advisories that you can do your homework. Really try to avoid only socializing. And I'm not minimizing the value of socialization. I get it. But if you are busy and really need that discipline, see if you can go to the library and get work done. Consider doing homework at a location away from home, especially for high school students who might be drivers. Go to the library, go to a bookstore, go to a coffee shop. There's a number of coffee shops that I've seen with study rooms. If you ever go into like a Barnes and Noble or a Starbucks, people are there working all the time. And go during midterms, during the college time, and you can't even find a table to sit at because college students do not do much studying in their dorm room. That's their kickback and enjoy and relax location. And it makes it really difficult to study. So if it's possible, I did have work with one family who made arrangements. They lived in a community that had a clubhouse, and that the parents took turns creating the community study hall, where they got with the manager, and 2 days a week, they would let them come in and have a study hall. And the parents took turns kind of proctoring that study hall. And I believe it worked quite well. Use a timer to start homework, or use the timer to sustain attention. How long do I plan to actually do the work? Or use a timer to create a routine. And we're going to go through them. I would not use the phone as your timer, because this is what the phone will look like in just 1 minute. It'll be a black screen. They'll lose track of how much time is left. And when they do turn on the phone to see how much time is left, they will also see their messages, and that'll divert their attention. So I would not use the phone timer. Instead, for younger kids, use an analog clock so they can see the passage of time, have it in front of them. If we're starting at 4 o'clock and you want to be done your work by the time the minute hand gets to the sticker, and they can watch it as the minute. In other words, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to keep working until that gets to the sticker. For older kids who understand the amount of time, the minutes of time, this is a time timer. It's been available for a number of years and has been used very frequently by many students. But essentially, you just identify how much time you're going to spend working, and that red will slowly disappear. And essentially what the student is doing is committing that until that red is gone, I'm going to stay focused. I have a goal I want to achieve. I'm going to really stick with it and commit to doing it. I'm not interested in doing it. I'm having trouble with it. But this is where the discipline comes in instead of the motivation. Students are often saying, I'm just not motivated. And you don't need to be motivated. Being disciplined is sometimes more important than the motivation. There is an app called Focus Keeper. It is on the phone, but it keeps the phone open. The free version does not stop messages from coming in, but it does keep the phone open so you can see the passage of time. If you are interested, it's not something I'm necessarily endorsing, but if you're interested, the paid version does also lock the phone of messages. This is how the time timer uses what we refer to as the Pomodoro method. Your brain is a muscle. Can you imagine going to the gym and saying, I'm going to do 200 curls, even though I've never done them before? And I think, oh, I did it. I can handle this. Oh, I'm getting tired, but that's okay. I'm disciplined. By the next day, you will be so sore, your muscles might not be able to move very well, and that'll be the end of your exercising. As disciplined as you were, you overworked your muscle. Your brain is the same. And so the Pomodoro method is so crucially important that depending on the age of the student, younger students are 15 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break, 15 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break, 15 minutes of work. You can preset the time timer that's online, and it'll just go right through that. This is one continuous. This is for an older student that's working 30 minutes for homework, a 7-minute break, and 20 minutes on a project. It's very easy to set. So instead of having the time timer, the object, you can get it as an app, and this is free. And it does also during these brain breaks, because your brain is a muscle, get up and move, go downstairs, get a drink of water, fill up your water bottle, go pet your dog, take them for a quick run around the house, whatever, just get the blood moving during that time. It is amazing how refreshing that is. And then your next work session is productive. What happens is students just keep working and working and working, and they start off productive, and the efficiency becomes very weak. And then they start just rushing through just to get done. Another tip is to become a self-advocate, to introduce yourself to your teachers. Your teachers want to help you. Ask questions in class. I can promise you, if you have that question, 10 other students in that class have a question, and they might kind of orally just to be cool, but quietly they're saying, I am so thankful he or she asked that question. Send an email to the teacher with your questions. If you're doing homework and you have a question, send it then, because tomorrow you will forget what the question is, or you will forget to ask the question. But this way you can actually email the teacher at the time with the materials, with the exact question in your mind, ready to write and be clear. And then when the teacher gives you a response, actually listen to the response. It is a two-way conversation. I was working with one student who said, I did what you asked, and I asked the teacher the question. I said, well, what was the answer? And they said, well, I asked the question, I don't know what the answer was. One of the benefits of emailing that question is if the teacher, and I would never suggest that a teacher's required, but if the teacher responds to the email in writing, then the answer is written for the student to be able to respond to it. No memory is necessary for that. Just wanting to kind of wrap up, I've kind of thrown a lot. They're real just basics of how to just get yourself ready to be successful, and cannot stress this enough, that discipline is the ability to make yourself do something you don't want to do. Parents, it's okay that your son or daughter doesn't necessarily want to write this. What is the discipline? Don't ask them to be motivated. What is the discipline? And remind them of what they really want to get, because there is something that they really want to get. And it might be that they can't have their phone during homework and they want their phone back. Whatever that happens to be, remind them that they want to stay on that sports team. I actually have my students write down what their immediate goal is and what their long-term goal is, and it's right in front of them. I also am sharing with you, and you will get a link to this in the email, this is a wonderful video that someone did about Michael Jordan's 10 rules for success. It is a wonderful list. It's keep working hard, ignite the fire, be different. I love this next one. Fail your way to success, kiddos. Be willing to take a chance, risk it. Have high expectations. Don't accept a C if you can get a B-. Be positive. Go for what you really want. What is your future? What is your future? That'll get you through writing this paragraph. Be who you were born to be. really strive to be motivated for what you want. See if you can get a class that you're really enjoy the sport you're in, enjoy the social group you're in. Be positive with that part of the day that you know that you are doing exactly what you want to do, maybe the elective or a certain teacher that you enjoy. Have a vision, know what you really want. Stop making excuses of I can't, because you can with help. You absolutely can. And Michael Jordan really emphasizes that practice, practice, practice. It is a wonderful video. Students love the video and actually can see themselves in many of those rules of success that he offers. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I threw a lot at you. And what can I do to help support any specific questions? And should I keep this up, or Kathy, should I then stop sharing?
I would say you're good. I think you could go ahead and take it down so they can see more of you.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a few questions for you for sure. And please don't hesitate to put more questions in if you're thinking of them as I'm asking these. Yeah, one just popped in. That's great. First question, I'm going to combine a couple of them. One was, how do we get our student to remember to check their planner? And another person asked a sort of similar question in terms of, you know, my child attends 2 different schools. There's 2 different sort of locations for everything. How do we get them to check all those additional places for the information that they need?
Well, essentially, first of all, I want to make a statement, and it depends on the age and the developmental level.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want parents to be very comfortable with is a lot of parents are afraid to help the student find what's in the planner, help the student, guide them through reading that planner and looking at the planner. Because parents, I applaud you, want independent learners. And I support that. When you're helping students with executive functioning skills, not the actual homework assignment, but the preparedness, the organization, you're reminding of them, you are creating the independent learners. You are not creating dependent learners. And so if the child is not doing it, if it's a very young one, then you can go to the workstation and say, let me help you write out this plan yourself. Let's go through this. Where's the first site? Where's the list of things? And so write this down. For the older students, simply say that I want to help you. Your goal, I see that you have it written down that your goal is that you want to stay on the soccer team and be ready for college. So let me help you with this one thing, and let's figure out the best way to have one list of everything. And that's okay, parents. You are not creating dependent learners when you're helping with the executive functioning skills, because those skills, and I'm going way off here, but are from the prefrontal cortex, which is fully developed at the age of 25. So academically, they are far more advanced than they are executively. And I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really just a matter of picking a strategy, maybe assisting at first. And
absolutely.
Then once they've got it down, you're kind of cueing them to remember to go to those places. And then after that, you're sort of stepping back and letting them take ownership of it and developing that habit, right?
And also reminding the student, we got the report that you missed 3 Spanish assignments or something like that. What is your plan? Because you have a goal. Let's remember, what is your plan? I'll just stop by and check out to make sure that's written down, because you want that goal and I want you to achieve that goal, and I want to support you to achieve that goal, instead of why aren't you doing it? Because they don't know why they're not doing it. They
Yep,
don't have the
absolutely.
executive functioning skills to do so.
So a student has asked a question. They're wondering if they have trouble specifically starting tasks. Like, I have motivation or at least discipline, but what are tips for like just starting it without telling a student to just start it? Like, what can I do? What can I be saying in my head, or what actions can I take?
First of all, I would set a timer for 2 times. One is a 10-minute warning, so that you know that whatever time you said that you're going to do your work, you have it. So a 10-minute warning that I got to stop what I'm working on. I know, and the time is going to be coming soon. And then a 2-minute warning. And the reason for that is that means that you are walking to your workspace, to your homework space, so that you are ready to start your homework in 2 minutes, because everything is organized and ready. And start with your easiest assignment if starting is the hardest part. But I would set your timer for 2 minutes. Also, have an accountability person, mom, dad, auntie, grandma. I'm planning to do my homework at 7 o'clock. Can you help me be accountable? And be willing to accept the people around you who love you, who want to support you, and allow them to love you, support you. But set 2 timers, one for 10 minutes before your plan time and one 2 minutes before your plan time.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a request for that template for the homework planner that you shared in a slide and that we use at Hill. And I
The
think,
one
yep,
that we cut in half and make, I can actually send that to you to be added to the email.
that'd be perfect if you can get it to Dara, she can get it out to him. And Monica, if I had that wrong and that wasn't the one you were talking about, the one where we cut it in half, let me know.
And make a little booklet,
yeah,
pad of paper.
yes.
And the kids love checking everything off, ripping it off of those staples, balling it up and throwing it away. There's something pretty cathartic about that.
Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, it's even better than just checking things off. You mentioned podcasts a couple of times. Where do those come from?
From the students, and that's a whole other. We have a library of previous community ed series. Maybe we want to connect that one as well. But essentially, one of the things that's becoming very popular with studying is, as a student takes notes or learns something in class, there's a couple of apps. One of them is called Recorder, and you essentially tell the story of the notes you took as if you were teaching it in a podcast. And then you save these series of podcasts, and that essentially you have practiced the notes. You now have an oral version of it, not reading the notes word for word, but presenting it as if it were in a podcast. And then taking time to just listen to them as you would listen to a podcast.
Another person has asked a question. I'm not really sure how to answer it because I don't know where they're located, but I'm gonna take a stab at it. It says, are these tips commonly taught in middle school, or are children just expected to know this already? What recommendations would we have for a child who's never had these skills taught in elementary school? And, you know, if you're local, I have all kinds of options for you, but if you are.
I was just going to say, we have study skills classes that are actually very popular. Indeed, that is an option. I will say I not only present at conferences, but I've worked with schools. I am often surprised with how basic some of this information is, yet isn't implemented in the schools.
Yep.
I would suggest to the parent, if you could just kindly talk with your teacher and say, I learned some of these strategies at a community ed series.
Mhm.
Do you think any of them might be beneficial, and can any of them be used for my child?
Yeah, we've worked hard at Hill, I know, to integrate them into what we do with students during the day. So if a teacher is assigning a project, the first night of homework for that project is to break the project down
Yeah.
into those smaller tasks and put those on a calendar.
And
You know,
that's due the next day, and that is part of the grade.
Yep, that plan is part of the grade.
And
Because
periodically, without the kids knowing it, they have to, I just say, okay, get out your plan, and I want to see your progress. Have
Yeah.
you followed your plan? And that's
Yeah.
worth bonus points.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of helps. Another person has said, what if the student's kind of unwilling to commit to a plan on a specific day? Having that accountability between home and school is a nice way, to help with that. If it's an assignment that's due and you'll be showing it the next day in class. And
also,
expected,
one of
that's
the things
great.
is sometimes getting an accountability person other than a parent. If you have a very good, if a student has a very good relationship with someone in your faith community, like a youth leader or a coach that you have, or a music teacher, or if that student has a relationship that they can trust outside of mom and dad. Sometimes we just want to get rid of the mom and dad student kind of angst, especially at the certain grade and ages that I won't announce, but know about. But often just asking the student to ask the student to ask, or you can ask this person, can you check in? And many of those kinds of people are happy to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the,
I'm sorry, I have one other suggestion too.
Okay,
I
I'm ready.
apologize for interrupting.
No, that's cool.
I know a number of students, another number of parents that hire, instead, it's not a tutor, it is just someone that does like a college freshman, or if it's for like a 6th grader, 7th grader, a high school junior or senior, to come, and they do their homework at the same time that your student does their homework. And it's really just to model it, and it helps them go ahead, and that becomes their accountability person. And that person, because they can then do their own homework, the pay is not the same as tutoring pay. It is a lesser fee, but it's really just the modeling and helping to keep that student accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you handle it if a teacher isn't posting homework ahead of time, or sometimes things get embedded in Google Classroom and it's not as clear cut as we're making it? Would reach out to the teacher, go meet? What should we do?
I would recommend, but I wouldn't take too much time, because you don't want to dig a hole of being later, is first of all, the student middle school and up.
Okay.
Middle school and up, the student emailed the teacher and saying, I went into this site and I'm really struggling trying to find the homework. Can you please help me in class, or at some point, at some time during tutorial or whatever, to navigate your website? I really want to do your homework. Make it positive, students. Make it that you are interested and you're willing to work with them. Parents, if there's no response, or if they're still not able to get what they need, then you can follow up pretty quickly within a day or two and say, my child has really wants to achieve this particular goal, is working towards it. And I've even looked at it and I'm really confused. Can you help us? And then maybe go to the counselor or an EC teacher to get help. But don't start at the very top. Try to work through and try to start with the student initiating this.
And advocating for their needs. Absolutely. Somebody was asking about the EF classes that we offer at Hill. Does that include note taking?
Yes. A whole day of it, a whole hour of it. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's all related to annotating, note taking, using those notes, turning them into podcasts, turning those notes into flashcards, turning those notes into, yes.
Yeah, doing something with them to process the information. Absolutely. What you mentioned about initiation, and we talked about some strategies for that. Somebody mentioned this, that a student might have trouble with initiation and then also perseverance. In other words, sticking with it until they get finished. So do the flip side of that and talk about perseverance strategies.
The perseverance, essentially, this is a student who's having trouble, period, with homework. They've been in school all day. There's a high level of fatigue. That's part of it. And it's also might have had a difficult day in school, or the academics are difficult, and it's more than just the EF. First of all, making sure, and once again, don't know the age of this particular student, but shorten the Pomodoro. So 15 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 15 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Now, also, along with that, one of the reasons students don't sustain attention or start is because they don't have the perception of accurate time. And so ask the student, we're going to work for 15 minutes. How long do you think it's going to take for you to do this math worksheet? Let's see how long it takes. And kids will usually triple the estimation of how long it's going to take. Therefore, they don't want to start. So if it takes 10 minutes, they're going to say, oh, at least a half hour. So that means I'm going to have work on it for 2 sessions. And then it's going to take me an hour to do my next assignment and my next assignment. There was one time that I asked kids to predict how long it was going to take for them to do a certain assignment. And then I actually timed them to do it. The average estimated time to actually do an assignment was 58 minutes. The average actual time to do the assignment was 21. And so one of the reasons that kids don't want to start or can't sustain is because of how long they think they're going to spend, and they're going to lose their free time. And so put it on a little sticky note that they think that it's going to take 38 minutes. I don't know, I'm making that up. Then time them and see how long it actually takes. And I think kids will be really surprised that it doesn't take as long. And when you don't invest that much time and you know that your free time is safe, you're more willing to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Time management is the concept of the passage of time. If you can make it visual, if you remember that analog clock with the sticky note at the bottom, it has to be visual in front of them.
Absolutely. Well, Geraldine, thank you so much for another wonderful presentation. I do want to encourage you, if you didn't see it in the chat, Dara was kind enough to put a link to our YouTube channel for Hill, and Hill Learning Center has a backlog of Geraldine's presentations from years past. And so if you want to take a deeper dive, go for it. We have lots of presentations that she has done on this topic of executive functioning. And always great for students to watch along with you. So I encourage you to go search that out and keep digging, keep trying for strategies that work. And I'll quote Geraldine here and say, pick the most pressing one and start there. Don't try to boil the ocean right away. Pick one strategy for one particular issue that you want to overcome and then tackle the next one. But thank you all for being here at Hill Learning Center. The link to our Hill Center EF classes has been included in the chat, and you'll receive it again tomorrow. So please check that out if you're local and want to get some extra help. We even have some classes on weekends if that works better for people's schedules. So thank you all. Thank you again, Geraldine, and I wish everyone a
And
great
a
night.
special shout out for any students who attended. Thank you.